Hey GameLeapers, this is Coach Eeks, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing the 10 best champions right now in 12-13, and like always, we'll be giving you the best builds, the best rune pages, the summoner spells, the skill orders for all of these 10 champions, and we're not really going to go in any sort of order here, we're just going to tell you 10 champions, and you can tell me in the comment section who you think the most broken is out of the 10 we mentioned. Now, to master any of the 10 champions, guys, you know what you have to do. The GameLeap website, in the description and comment section, the best players and coaches around the world are uploading content on the reg for your own improvement. We're going to teach you how to become a challenger player, how to play at your peak in Season 12, so check out those links and get that exclusive access by signing up, and let's get into the countdown. Now, we're going to start with the top laners first of all, and we're going to start with a champion who got changed in 12-13, this being Gwen. So for Gwen in 12-13, because your abilities are actually dealing more damage and scaling off more AP, in particular your Q, which is now executing minions below 20% HP, this is what you'll be maxing first as well, and also the fact that your E at rank 5 is giving you 65% of its cooldown back when you auto attack after using your skip and slash. This is huge. This means that for your scaling, because of the extra AP ratios and the extra cooldown refund in your E, it makes your late game even better than before. This is why Gwen, and you can see that in Master and above in Korea, she has a 53% win rate above this and is an S+ tier champion. Just make sure if you're going to play her, picking Ghost is kind of essential, because this will allow you to get more auto attacks off, reset your E, also get your auto attacks in there for your Q, which you'll be maxing first, and also for your needlework, because now you can only use your ultimate when you auto attack an enemy champion. So having Ghost, the stickiness to stick to the enemy champion, is a must. Just make sure you're getting Riftmaker, cooldown boots. You can go steel caps if you're against a Jax or a Tryndamere, for example, but then following this up with a Nash's, those are your core items. So Gwen is one of the champions to consider, just like Fiora. But for Fiora, it's a bit of a different setup here, because you might be thinking Gore Drinker, maybe Strikebreaker. We're actually talking about Sundra Fiora. And because of the new changes to Sundra, which pretty much make it really good against squishier champions than before, in the top lane, yes, champions might have more HP these days, especially champions like Ornn, Sejuani, who you're seeing. But the point is this, most of the time you're probably going to be playing against bruiser champions and across the rift as well. So in most games, 5 of the enemy champions are going to be better for Divine Sundra because they won't have the HP to make it worse off. And because you do so well to tanks anyway, because of your vitals and the true damage, you don't really have to worry about shredding them as much as other champions. And in Master and above in Korea, you can see S+ tier, a 60% win rate in 150 matches with these setups, and also a 20% ban rate. Players just cannot stand this champion in the top lane. She counters so many, so Fiora is another one we have to think about. Just like Darius, the final top laner on this countdown, S+ tier, close to a 55% win rate in Master and above in Korea. This champion is the nuts, and interestingly enough here, you can see that fleet footwork is being built in some matchups. Now, this will be important if you're into matchups that you might need to kite around in the top lane, because Darius's cooldowns are quite long, so you do need the movement speed. It's also why we run Ghost, to be able to wait for those cooldowns to come back up, or even just to chase the enemy champion. It actually makes you scarier as well when you're going for those all-ins. But Darius is much the same, guys. Nothing has really changed in the last few patches. It's just that the durability meta is just prime for him. Because of your DPS, your consistent damage, it's as high as anyone's, and because of this fact with your hemorrhage stacking, it just pushes Darius over the top, and I don't think anyone is going to really argue with this champion on the countdown. Now let's move to the jungle here, and a champion who got changed in 12-13 who is featuring on this countdown. This is Fiddlesticks, and you can see that in Diamond and above across the world, Fiddlesticks is an S+ tier jungler with over a 53% win rate. Now, why is Fiddlesticks so good? Well, that's because your base damage in your ultimate got buffed this patch, and also the AP ratio. So not only do you have the scaling, but you also have more damage at level 6 and level 11 when you're not going to have that much AP in your kit, and also the fear duration in your Q going up is useful as well, because that could make the difference between getting a kill, setting up a kill. So this has been a great patch for Fiddlesticks so far, but what's interesting in terms of rune pages is this one right here. Running First Strike, you're going to be able to get this off most often, because with your Crow Storm, it's pretty much impossible to react to, so the first damage will be yours. Also, when you're fighting the enemy jungler, Fiddlesticks kind of has decent range, so again, you will just be getting free gold and getting to your power spikes earlier. Also, as far as your secondary tree goes, make sure you take Domination with Cheap Shot, because this will proc off your Q, and also Ultimate Hunter, because we want to reduce the cooldown of our Crow Storm. This is what Fiddlesticks is about, so that is essential. Now, the other jungler to consider, guys, on this countdown, this is Taliyah, and even Taliyah as a mid laner is another option. But Taliyah in the jungle, you can see that in Master and above in Korea, S+ tier, close to a 55% win rate. That's pretty much like any champion on this countdown. But yes, Taliyah in the jungle, why is she better? Well, that's because her clear is better, because her Q's damage is up, the mana cost is down, and you also stun jungle monsters with your boulder. And this is for 3 seconds as well, by the way, so your clear is just better, you're going to be healthier. So Taliyah with Dark Harvest and the rune page on your screen, Cheap Shot because there's procs off your seismic shove, with Nimbus Cloak and Water Walking. Nimbus Cloak because movement speed is so important on Taliyah, using that to kite around the enemy champion's abilities and using as many Qs as possible, and also Water Walking because this works really nicely with your passive, and also just makes you scarier. Your roams, your ganks, whether you're getting in position to use your ultimate. It just makes things happen quicker, which is what this champion is about. Just make sure you're maxing Q, then your E, and then your W. Now, the last 5 champions, we only really have one mid laner to talk about here, this being Yone. And kind of like Darius, I don't think anyone is really going to complain about Yone being on a top 10 countdown because the champion is just straight up busted in this durability meta. Nothing in 12-13 has really affected this champion, so because he was strong before, he's going to be strong again. And he currently is incredibly powerful, master and above in career. You can see in over 200 matches in the mid lane, S+ tier, 53.3% win rate, nutty stats. But what's really interesting here, if you look at the bottom of your screens, is the actual build that Yone players are going. So Chovy made this popular. He was going Blade of the Rune King and Sunfire Aegis, and he kind of memed it, saying that it doesn't actually matter what you build, it's all about the player and how you play the game. Now, he is kind of right, but the build actually works still. And you can see that when you build Bork with Sunfire Aegis, these players in high elo career anyway, are winning close to 60% of games. Because as Yone, you have so much innate damage anyway, especially when you get Bork and Berserker Screes and points in your Q. Your Q will be on a very low cooldown, so you really won't need any extra damage. And because the meta is all about surviving and durability, Sunfire Aegis actually gives you decent damage because of the Immolate passive, but it gives you the tankiness you kind of need to out-sustain the enemy bruisers who might love the late game as well. So maybe Red Kayn might be on the list. Maybe champions like Fiora, who you can finally beat in the split push because of Sunfire Aegis. So this build, super interesting. It looks interesting in terms of the INT, but it is legit and it does work. So I'd highly recommend trying this out in your games. So Yone is the mid laner we have to talk about here. Now, moving to the bot lane, guys, we have 2 AD carries on this list, and the first of these is the new and improved Sivir. Now, even though she got hotfix nerf, this champion has improved drastically since 12-13, and that's really because your DPS is up, and no longer do you have to go that lethality build, which was tickling champions in the durability meta. So now, because you have more consistent DPS with Kraken Slayer and Phantom Dance and Berserker's Greaves, and because you're getting attack speed in your W now and not just your ultimate, which of course is on a longer cooldown, the new changes have meant that Sivir is arguably the best AD carry. And you can see, according to these stats in Master and above on career, S+ tier champion, 52.5% win rate in over 500 matches, very respectable, especially when she's picked 29% of the time and banned in over a quarter of the matches. Put some respect on this champion. Now, the other AD carry to consider if you don't want to play Sivir, well, it is another lethal tempo AD carry, and this is Zeri. So I understand that Zeri and lower elos might not be the most amazing AD carry to pick, and the reason being is because she is mechanical. You really have to know how to kite and space on this champion, auto attack move, movement command in between auto attacks. You can't play her just by right clicking. But once you do master this champion, the sky's the limit, and once you do hit the late game, especially your 3-4 item spike with maybe Infinity Edge to proc the 60% critical strike chance passive, this is when Zeri can obliterate teams and 1v9. I'm sure we've all seen this before, just in terms of what you're actually maxing first, Q, then your W, and then your E. Just remember that you're not the best early game champion, so try to play for that late game, stay in contact with the enemy AD carry in terms of CS, and you will hopefully understand why this champion is so good in higher reloads. Now, in terms of the supports in 12-13, guys, well, we have 2 of these, and the first of these is Renata. Now, the reason Renata is on here, well, there's no other reason than the fact that the champion is just innately broken, because she has been nerfed multiple times since release. And has this really changed anything? No. She's been S+ tier the entire time. She's picked and even banned a lot in pro play at the moment, and nothing has really changed this patch. You can see that in Master and above in career, she has close to a 20% ban rate as a support. That speaks volumes to how OP players think this champion is. Just make sure in terms of the mythic you're building Shirelles, the movement speed, but also the ability haste mythic passive. Super important for Renata because cooldowns are such a big thing. And speaking of your cooldowns, your hostile takeover, your ultimate, the poke and peel you have with your E, the shield, your W, the Zillion ultimate, the handshake, displacing enemy champions and peeling your own teammates. Just be sure, guys, to copy the skill order here. So you're putting 3 points in your loyalty program at level 5, and then you're maxing your bailout afterwards. So by level 10, you have 5 points in W, 3 in your E. Then afterwards, max out your E and then your Q, and you should be sweet. Now, the other support and the final champion on this list, guys, to consider for 12-13 as the best champion, this is the Crank Blitzcrank. And because your Q's damage went up, the base damage, and also your ultimate base damage went up, this means that for Blitzcrank in the early laning phase, you have your power back finally. So as soon as you land that rocket grab onto the enemy champion, it's probably going to result in a kill. If you land that rocket grab onto an enemy champion and you are level 6 or level 11 or 16, it is 100% a kill as well. So the kill threat for Blitzcrank, it is back to how it was before the durability changes. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, probably depends on the role you're playing. If you're an AD carry, you probably hate it, but for Blitzcrank players, it has been a welcome sight, and he is back to being one of the best champions, S+ tier master in career as well, where players actually have their monitors turned on and they can dodge Blitzcrank hooks. So for Blitzcrank, this really shows us how good he's doing at the moment. So I'd highly recommend, if you are a support player, to pick this champion for the rest of 12-13. So those were the 10 most broken champions, guys. Definitely consider playing them and learning them and mastering them. Of course, you can do so via our website down below. And if you do enjoy these countdown videos where we give you the rune pages pages and the builds and all that info, make sure you leave a like down below. And until tomorrow's daily Season 12 upload, this has been Coach. Peace.